Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, the coffees are here. Up, cheers. Cheers, coffee.
I can't see if I'm touching yours.
That's true. That's true. The coffees are in. And the conversation is about to begin. I am so stoked to be talking to my guest today. She is awesome. She's a marketing leader, a thought leader, decade plus of experience, and all sorts of things from crafting compelling campaigns and engaging content and just really drawing some wisdom out of reports and diving into analytics. So really all the things. Host of the Demand Gen Chat podcast, which I hear, you heard it here first, back in April is what I heard. Head of Demand Gen at Chili Piper, Tara Robertson, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. That's quite an intro. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll just follow you I'll be your hype man, right? Just go into a conference, you have the boombox on the shoulder, you know? So I gotta pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know you work out, so here you go. Okay, here's Thor's hammer. Go ahead, take that. You got it. Okay,
I got it.
There you go. Take Thor's hammer. Wow, you made that look easy. Take Thor's hammer. Smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
All right. So the myth that I want to smash today is that for most B2B marketers, email lead nurturing is a complete waste of time.
Whoa. I can't. Okay, we're going to get into this. I wrote a book all about marketing automation, and nurturing was in there. And you're saying for most, you said, was it small businesses? Was that the qualifier?
For B2B specifically.
B2B.
Because that's where my experience is. So I don't want to speak to anything else.
No, Stan, we kicked the B2C folks out. They're not welcome here. You are, but. Okay, so tell me more. So this is crazy. It's blowing my mind that someone would even say something with so much heresy in it. What do you mean?
So at least in my experience, and marketing is always evolving, but for me in the last 10 years-ish, anytime we've spent a lot of effort and time on setting up nurture flows, first of all, by the time we finally get around to launching them, the content's outdated because we take forever to get ourselves organized and we have new content that we have to put in. But also in general, I think marketers spend a lot of time on things like A/B testing, whether it's subject lines, whether it's content, whether it's the sender name. And most of us B2B marketers don't have big enough audiences in our nurture streams to make all this testing worthwhile. I think we love the idea of testing and we love the idea of being data-driven, but for most of us, it's not worth the effort because we're not going to get statistically significant results anyway.
Amen. That's so true. It just for everyone listening, like, could you just kind of share what statistical significance is?
Yeah, great question. So the kind of easiest way to explain it is that if you run an A/B test to get results that are actually meaningful, you need a certain number of participants in that test and a certain number of results. So you can't just say send an email to 10 people, get one click and say, we have a winner. This is the winning subject line. Let's run with that. You actually need a certain number of participants and also of, I guess, engagement on that. So one handy tool, I actually just Google this every time I need it. But MailChimp has a stat sig calculator. So I've used that before, and you can just enter in your audience size and it'll tell you roughly how many results you need to get to that significance.
Sick. Yeah, it's not enough to just say, oh, this happened. No, it could be random chance that this person versus that person. So you got to, and you hate to base your whole strategy on random chance, which people do. So, okay. Right. So I totally get that. The audiences aren't big enough. And I heard we're geeking out on A/B testing, but we don't have the numbers. The content gets dated by launch. What else goes awry when we try to do these nurtures?
I would say the other thing is, and I know Liam touched on this, so I won't go too deep in it, but in a previous episode, Liam talked a lot about how marketers love this idea of a clean, perfect funnel, and that isn't really how people buy things. So you can try to push people down this artificial funnel, but most of the time, people are going to come to you when they're ready to buy. Getting an email isn't necessarily going to move the needle there unless you have something specific, say you have a time-bound event like a webinar or a happy hour that you're hosting, then an email makes perfect sense because you need people to show up. You want to get them excited about it. But to get them to actually make a B2B purchase, typically one email isn't going to move the needle on that.
That's true, right? And the thing that really gets me is B2B sale, and I get an email saying, if your company signs up, if you get your company to sign up for this like large B2B deal, we'll send you an iPad if you can do it in the next week. And it's like, guys, and I was just like the marketing manager. Like I don't have the ability to like, so it's kind of a tease because I can't make this happen tomorrow. And so this email just kind of made me a little bit more cranky at them than anything.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that incentives like that can work really well in B2B, and I just think it's almost more personal than B2C because say you spend too much money on a tool, it's not implemented properly. In B2B, you could lose your job over something like that. It's not
Totally.
like in B2C where you bought the wrong brand of like paper towels on Amazon. Like it's not going to change.
Oh
Most
my gosh, our
B2C
toilet
things are
paper.
not.
Oh my gosh. The toilet paper with the bear on it is like the worst. It's the absolute worst. Screw those guys. Scott's all the way. But you're right. Like no big deal with those kind of purchases, but man, it's a serious
It can be.
thing.
Yeah.
Make the wrong call. Yeah. Okay. So people love a clean funnel. They're not clean. And I was thinking of even just the nurturing emails. Like which one do you send first? Do you send the early stage content first or the late stage content first? What if they're in the middle of the stage, or what if they're late stage people? And like, oh, we'll send late stage first. But what if they're early stage people? Like, so and then now we're spending a ton of time on it. Totally get it. Totally get it. And are you saying like all nurturing or specifically like the nurturing emails and like those email threads and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically in the marketing automation, like building out that path of, again,
Sure.
kind of a funnel for email nurture. I will say one kind of similar, but not in this category thing would be outbound. I think there's a ton of great success you can see on the outbound side with email because you have a person making those recommendations on what content it should be. It's not just shoving people down this automated funnel. You have an SDR or BDR who's actually taking the time to research that person first. And there you can see success. They also generally have bigger numbers of people that they're emailing. So you can actually get pretty significant results on things like subject lines and CTAs.
Right. And you don't necessarily just want to dump your entire outbound list into your nurturing
Yeah,
platform.
please don't do that.
I
I'm
think
sure some
I
people
think it's
still do it.
frowned on. That's not my official advice. Anything else on the nurturing that just, I mean, you're definitely beating it up pretty good.
I would just say another thing to consider is I tend not to force prospects down a path that I wouldn't enjoy myself. So I don't love that idea of, hey, you signed up for this event or you signed up for this webinar. Now we're going to force you to get our emails 3 times a week for the rest of your life. I don't think that's a good strategy. I don't think anyone is interested in that. So I would just try to, if you're getting pressure to do these nurtures from either your CMO or your VP marketing, I would just try to take a step back and figure out how do people actually find us and buy from us, and whether you're spending some time with your sales team. If you have a tool like Gong that records your sales calls, you can get some insight there.
Shout out to Udi. What's up?
Yeah, shout out to Gong. We love them. But any of those tools can really help surface things that you might not have thought of on the marketing side. And at least in my experience at a couple different companies now, it's never those email nurtures that come up on those calls. It's I met someone at an event, maybe I follow you on LinkedIn. So there's other touch points that you can have as a regular touch point with those people versus forcing them to get your emails.
Yeah, totally. I once got inundated with someone who made this insane nurture path, and I got so many emails. I wrote back to one, as I sometimes do, and I wrote too many emails. Now I could have been really nice and be like, hello, email person, too many emails, spare me, please. But I was just like, too many emails, just give a little feedback, too many emails. Apparently that seemed rude. They wrote back and they said, well, not everyone else thinks that way. Or like, everyone else thinks they're fine. And I was like, I wanted to write back, but I didn't. But it was like, I totally get it. I would it would be terrible if I sent someone down that same path that I went down. Ugh, that'd be horrible.
Well, that's a funny anecdote because you replying to that email actually helps with their deliverability versus
Yeah.
you could have just hit unsubscribe, marked them as spam, and that would have been much worse for them. But I feel for that person.
One time I called a spammer up, like some company just spammed me. And I called the owner,
You
answered
actually
it, like,
call?
yeah. I was like, hey, this isn't cool, man. He was just so taken aback. He didn't know what to do with himself. Next time I'll record it for the podcast. Okay, so, and I heard you say, like, take a step back, get out of the tech for a second. How do people find you? How do they buy? That kind of thing. So it sounds like you probably have Swiss Army knife of all sorts of other things you do to stay top of mind. I mean, that's my thing, right? Nurture could be great for top of mind. But if you've got other things that can do that, I understand. I've got this great nurture email response though, where it's like this guy who was like, yeah, call me in 9 months, and he got a nurture email something like 5 months in, and he just he ignored it and he replied to it and was like, hey, we just hired that web person we said we were going to do. We're ready to pick things back up again, and it's like, I'm sure he set like a 9-month reminder on a CRM, but if he had waited 9 months and didn't have that nurture to stay top of mind, maybe that prospect would have shopped elsewhere.
Yeah, I think part of marketing is just that, staying top of mind, but it's doing that without being so intrusive that that person hits unsubscribe or replies too many emails, right? I think a lot of people still think of email as like a free channel, which I don't necessarily agree with because, again, as soon as you annoy someone, piss them off, they're going to hit unsubscribe and you've lost that contact. You can't email them again. So one way that we stay top of mind at Chili Piper is instead of spending time on nurture emails, I spend a lot of time on our retargeting, specifically on LinkedIn, but we're playing with a couple of other channels too. And that way we can stay top of mind, but it's not in their inbox. It's not taking over their brain space where they're getting emails from their boss and their team. It's while they're browsing LinkedIn, we'll come up with some content that might be relevant for them on their feed.
That's a really good point. The display ads are, in my opinion, sometimes they feel really kind of useless for like direct lead gen, but as a reminder, that's great, right? It's so subtle. It's just there. It's not bothering anyone. Hopefully it's not in front of that video you're trying to watch on YouTube, but like, they're just kind of hanging out on LinkedIn. That's really smart. How's that been going for you?
Yeah, it's been going really well. Actually, I was very skeptical of, if you're on LinkedIn a lot, you've probably seen the text ads on the side. They're very tiny little ads on the right-hand side of your LinkedIn.
Okay.
I was pretty skeptical because they are small. I kind of thought of them as display, which is kind of like, people might not notice. But the cost per click and cost per million impressions on those is amazing. It's probably one of our cheapest channels, and LinkedIn is notoriously expensive. So that's one way that we've been playing with our retargeting budget, is surfacing those text ads, and we've seen some direct demo requests come in from those.
No kidding. Is that like the promoted on the right-hand side with a
Yeah, they're very tiny at the top.
Oh, at the top.
Kind of on the right side. Yeah, I'm trying to picture my feed.
No, I had to go to LinkedIn just to like.
They're very short. It's a really small character count that you have to play with. But I was really, like I said, I was skeptical, but I wanted to test them out because I can't remember who, someone else was saying that they worked really well for them on retargeting.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's cool too. You're dropping like nuggets left and right because, again, with LinkedIn, it's been very dicey for like direct lead gen, or it's good for a while and then it just somehow has like a personality change and just totally stinks after that. But that's cool. It sounds like you found some good ways to approach that.
Yeah, we've also been testing out thought leader ads, which they're not so new now, newish format on LinkedIn, where you can finally put paid spend behind posts from real people at your company, so not just your company. And we're testing them from our co-founder Alina and from myself. And it's been really interesting to see the results so far. So that's another way we're staying top of mind with people that traditionally they would probably have been thrown into an email nurture and, again, kind of gone down that path. We would have lost probably dozens of people to things like unsubscribes and bounces. But instead, we're just staying top of mind by being in their feed. Yeah, so mine for my personal account is pretty new. It's been live for a couple of weeks now. And I've definitely seen more followers and connections. I can't point to how many were from that ad specifically. It's a little bit fuzzy to tell. But on the promoted post itself, I mean, I don't have a ton of followers. I'm not like a huge name on LinkedIn like Alina, my co-founder, has quite a few. But I have a much smaller following. And generally when I post, I get like maybe a couple of thousand impressions on a post. But this one that I've boosted through a thought leadership ad has just over 100,000 impressions, tons of engagement, lots of comments, lots of click-throughs to the actual blog post. And we've spent less than $2,000. So for that amount of impressions, it's pretty amazing. And we're targeting just target accounts and just titles that we want to see it. So it's pretty great use of that spend.
Okay, so there is that extreme targeting you can get to on
Yeah,
an
you
account
can.
base.
Yeah, you can get as targeted as you
Cool.
want with LinkedIn, pretty much. Which is, I mean, there's a minimum segment size. I think it's still around 300 people, but still very valuable versus just, again, dumping a bunch of contacts into your database and hoping people click on your email.
You know, and you had mentioned this around it's like, oh, email's free. Like, it's true. You do lose them. Like, if you screw up the email or you make the worst email go to as many people as possible, you literally lose the ability to communicate with these people, short of smoke signals and sending them socks in the mail or something. But like, so yeah, you got to be more careful with that. And I like these different aspects. Have what kind of things happen even to your own account? On the thought leader ads, have you seen like more connections, or are you getting more likes on your posts and more traction, more people sharing? What kind of things are you seeing?
Yeah, so mine for my personal account is pretty new. It's been live for a couple of weeks now. And I've definitely seen more followers and connections. I can't point to how many were from that ad specifically. It's a little bit fuzzy to tell. But on the promoted post itself, I mean, I don't have a ton of followers. I'm not like a huge name on LinkedIn like Alina, my co-founder, has quite a few. But I have a much smaller following. And generally when I post, I get like maybe a couple of thousand impressions on a post. But this one that I've boosted through a thought leadership ad has just over 100,000 impressions, tons of engagement, lots of comments, lots of click-throughs to the actual blog post. And we've spent less than $2,000. So for that amount of impressions, it's pretty amazing. And we're targeting just target accounts and just titles that we want to see it. So it's pretty great use of that spend.
Okay, so there is that extreme targeting you can get to on
Yeah,
an
you
account
can.
base.
Yeah, you can get as targeted as you
Cool.
want with LinkedIn database and hoping people click on your email.
I know, spray and pray kind of thing. That's just so old school and never really that effective. Okay, cool. So thought leader targeting. You've got some accounts you're targeting. You get probably right to the right person, right? Role.
Yeah, what we've been playing around with is targeting basically my peers on LinkedIn with my posts. And then for more senior titles, I use Alina's account to target
Oh,
them.
cool.
So it's kind of like seeing a peer in their feed. It seems more natural.
Mm.
And it's more someone that they would actually probably want to connect with and learn. That's the idea anyway. It's a little early to say if that works, but that was my hunch.
Well, I like it. No, it makes a lot of sense. I remember even just my previous company doing like a marketing strategy podcast, and then someone else on the team rocked this like more tactical, like in the weeds, like let's build click things marketing podcast. And we each had our own focuses, and it worked well. Like not trying to make it everything for everyone, but really zeroing in.
Yeah, I think when you try to make it for everyone, it often ends up being for no one because you're trying to do a bunch of, especially with a podcast, you're trying to cram a lot into half an hour or however much time you have.
Yeah, so tell me about the experience you've had with your podcast. And I know, we've sort of teased maybe it comes back out in April.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Sure. So I took it over around 2-ish years ago. So Kaylee Edmundson, who had been head of demand gen at Chili Piper previously, was running it. She did an awesome job of building up the audience. So as soon as she was leaving the company, we knew someone had to take it over. It's not really something that comes naturally to me, I would say, but I kind of jumped at the chance to try something new and take it over. So it's been really fun so far.
Sick. And do you have like established goals for the pod?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of people start a podcast with goals like we're going to create opportunities, we're going to book demos. it's a really long game. I wouldn't go into it. If you're getting pressure to set those type of goals, a podcast probably isn't the best channel for you, honestly. But our goal is really just to grow the audience. So we set goals in terms of just number of streams. Right now, like you mentioned, we're on a hiatus, so we're not really pushing the podcast too much. So we get a couple hundred streams a month without really doing much, just from the audience that's already in there. But we have a goal for streams, and then we also put every episode up on YouTube. So we set goals for just video views as well.
Gotcha.
We're still working on honestly cracking YouTube. We have a ton of video content, but that's the search aspect of YouTube. We haven't quite figured that out yet.
Totally. Have you done much with like the shorts?
Yeah, we saw a very early success with them, I think because we were doing them in B2B before a lot of other people were.
Sure.
So we were packaging up clips from the podcast and using that on shorts. A couple of them really took off and we got thousands of views, and then kind of has been fizzling out lately, I think just because there's more content on there.
More people out there throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But early on, we were seeing really good success with them.
Yeah, we had two. Sam on the team, shout out to Sam, would take me just saying silly things that I normally say anyways, or you, and he would drop in like all these animated like things happening. If I'm like energy, a Red Bull floats across the screen, and it takes a little bit more time, but we definitely got some traction with that. And I really love the stat that YouTube gives you, a little bit of insight. They let you know if you got a subscriber from the shorts, right? Like this
Yeah.
person originally got hooked in on your shorts and now they're like in for all of it. And I love seeing that flow.
Yeah, I wish podcasts in general had better metrics on that side, because it's I mean, I'm sure you know this, but you can see streams and honestly not a lot else. You can't really
I know,
see
right?
like, are people listening to a whole episode? Are they sharing it with a friend? I would love to see those kind of stats.
Yeah, the people that have them kind of keep them really close to themselves. But I've heard some really crazy stats about, if somebody gets through like 3 minutes of the pod, they listen to the whole hour, So like
Yeah, I've heard
most
that too.
people will, even though we have short attention spans, people will still stick around to even right now in this podcast, right? Still here, curious to know what's going on.
Yeah, I love how on YouTube you can see that drop off, so we can
Oh,
figure out
yeah.
like, okay, this is too long or we need to do this. But yeah, with podcasts, most people stick with it. I think because honestly they're multitasking. At least I always am when I'm listening
Totally,
to a
right? You're
podcast.
driving. You don't like, oh, switch to the next pod.
Yeah,
I'll
doing
just keep
dishes
going.
or something with
Yeah,
your
totally.
hands. Exactly.
Yeah, you know what? Anything to make the dishes easier. Seriously. Throw on
Yeah,
this pod,
it's
anything.
my least favorite chore, so that's why I switched.
Same. You know what's worse in my mind? Drying after washing them.
Yeah.
Something about it. So yeah, podcast saving people from the pain of washing dishes since, 1999. So just sort of like curious, for the pod maybe coming back from, will you do anything different, you think? I won't hold you to it.
Yeah, so we're exploring some different things. Similar to this podcast, mine was purely an interview style format in the
Sure.
past. We're probably going to bring on someone new from Chili Piper to join me as kind of a co-host, and we're going to
Oh,
try to do
cool.
some episodes that are more kind of behind the scenes of what we're doing on the marketing team at Chili Piper, because we get a lot of questions about that in general, and we don't always have time to sit down, write a blog post, write a lot of in-depth content around it, but we can spend half an hour chatting through things. So I think we'll
Got
do
it.
that.
All right. And then like repurpose that into many things, shorts and text.
Yeah, that's the goal, because right now it's funny, sitting down to write a blog post seems really tough to me when I look at my schedule. I need like a solid block, but I can make half
Oh,
an
yeah.
hour to talk through something, and then that could be a blog post after the fact.
100%. Seems so much easier. And also I remember spending hours on like a LinkedIn post to have either 1,200 or 12 people read it, and the difference, I don't know. Like it was just, I even experimented with like, oh, let me put like really attractive people on the header image and see if that helps. Or like, let me put a helicopter rescuing someone. No one liked the helicopter, but the attractive people helped a little bit.
Yeah, it's tricky when you rely on a channel like that because you don't have any control.
Seriously.
Yeah. My biggest post, which was something so silly, I don't even remember what it was. But because I had tagged Slack in it, it blew up because Slack commented on it. And it was like a 20-word post. It took no effort at all. And now I'll post a video, I'll post all this, and it gets half the impressions that did. So a bit tricky to figure out what to post. But
the amazing, powerful Slack at tag. Hey, Slack. Hey,
Yeah.
okay, cool. For me, it was I asked someone on a podcast, like, hey, if you had um we're talking about getting people on different podcasts. It was like, if you had unlimited money and time, energy, how would you go about getting someone to be a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast? Right. And even mentioning that name, turning that into a short, we start coming up in shorts for his podcast as well. And it was almost like newsjacked it a bit.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to game the search on YouTube. 'Cause like I was saying, that's a huge driver for YouTube traffic. So that's sneaky.
Yeah.
I like that. So
Just invoke the name.
yeah, think of some names. Yeah.
Heck. Question for you, at Chili Piper and beyond, what's coming around the corner? What are you excited about in the future that you can't wait to take advantage of and just double down on?
Ooh. I feel like this is something that will resonate with you just based on your personality. But I think a lot of marketers are scared right now of what AI means for content, for our jobs. But I actually think it's a good opportunity to start making more content that has a personality. Because I mean, now when I see a blog post that has no personality that seems like it's written for SEO, I just assume an AI tool wrote it. So
Totally.
I think we're going to have more opportunity to use AI for hopefully some of the boring stuff, some of the reporting, some of the things we can automate in the back end, and then spend more time on either more personality forward content like podcasts, like video, but also just getting out and meeting people in person. I think we'll have more time for those kind of things. So I'm excited personally for that.
I love that. Yeah, get it, more people time, right? More connection. Because
Mhm.
it got so crazy. I mean, I know we were talking about nurturing, and I spent 10 years like making people better at email spam nurture, right? And it's just like, ugh. And so I just sort of went the opposite and like, let's just podcast, let's just talk to people one on one now. Like, I don't even like no more of the scale stuff. Like, that's just how can we really connect? So I'm excited to hear that. That makes sense, right? Because if everything's boring, you need that extra authentic, weird human on top doing their weird human dad jokes and, go from there.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't come naturally to everyone. So trying to put yourself out there a bit more is tough especially
For
for
sure.
someone like me, but I think it's a good opportunity to try it out and have some
Well,
fun.
no, and it's working for you. And I could see even, getting even crazier if you have two co-hosts all talking about it and promoting
Mm.
it. That's really cool. It'll be interesting to hear later, like, how did it go? Was it better having two people? It might even just be easier having two people than just one person as a host. And I mentioned dad joke. I've got a joke for you if you're game for this.
I'm game.
Okay. What do you call a chicken with lettuce in its eye? Do you know this one?
No, I don't think I do.
What do you
No,
call
I
a
don't
chicken
understand.
with lettuce in its
Chicken.
eye?
I don't know. What do you call it?
Chicken Caesar salad.
I like that. I'm a big Caesar salad fan.
Chicken Caesar salad.
That's a
Oh,
good one.
everyone just unsubscribed from the podcast.
They
We
just took
didn't
their
need
headphones
you
out.
anyway. Sick. Well, you've just got me so curious. Like, we've been learning so much and we've been, sharing strategies and so good. But Tara, like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know these things? Take me back in time. Little Tara days. Did you know you're going to be a marketing leader, doing podcasts, hosting your own, being guest on other ones? Like, take me back in time. What was it like?
How far back should I go?
Oh, go
Like
go
little?
far back. Like, little Tara running around, causing trouble in the neighborhood.
I would say I didn't really think I don't think I knew what marketing was
Sure.
necessarily when I was younger. But one of my first jobs in high school was working at a movie theater. And so we got, this seems so funny now, it makes me sound really old. But when movies were new, we would get like a screening the night before for just employees, and it was super exciting to see it before everyone else.
That's cool.
But my favorite part was always the trailers. Even now, I'll be on YouTube looking at movie trailers. I just think they're so cool. And things like the posters, the big promo. I can't even remember what they're called. Oh, we used to call them standees. I don't know if they call them this anymore. But they're those
Standees?
big 3D cutouts that you see at theaters sometimes to promote a movie.
Yeah.
So one of my first jobs was I would stay late and assemble those because I like my alone time and I liked doing that. Um, so I think I just didn't really think that that was marketing, but I was so interested in that piece. And then later on, I kind of just ended up working in marketing and realized like, oh, this is
Sure.
more overlap with what I was doing before than I thought. But I just was exposed to it in a totally different way.
So cool. So what was it about the trailers, or what is it about the trailers that just kind of piques your interest?
I think now what I think is really interesting is that they basically make or break a movie, make or break million, I mean, almost like hundreds of $1 million budgets based on this 30-second, 60, 90-second thing, which is pretty incredible to think about. But I think what I used to really like about it is they're just so good at building the excitement, whether it's like suspenseful or like a love story, sad, scary. They just build that up so quickly and you feel so invested so quickly. And I think that's, looking back, I think that's something that all marketers try to do. And it's not always as easy in B2B. But I think at the time it was just something that really appealed to me for whatever reason.
Totally. It's almost like you were learning A/B testing early on. Just you were learning like ad copy and do you remember that movie which was like where you're supposed to like, go in a dream? The people that would do you remember what was that called? The dream one? Do you ever saw that?
I probably did. I saw a lot.
Oh, Inception? I think that's what it's called. Inception. I heard this thing, I think I saw it side by side on YouTube. They had 2 different versions of the same trailer, and they changed the chord they were playing in the music. And one chord was like the sci-fi suspense chord, and the other chord was like a little bit more disharmony, and it was like the horror, scary chord to try to get people that were like into the scary movies. And they would play that one, you know, before scary movies, and they'd play the adventure or sci-fi one before those movies. And I was blown away by the creativity of
Such a
that.
small
Just to
change.
tweak it just a little bit.
That is so fun. Yeah, that's so specific. I love hearing too about the market research where they watch a whole movie and change the ending based on audience
Hey, really?
reception. Yeah, I don't know about Inception specifically, but they do that a lot. They'll change whole storylines based on how people received
Oh,
it.
snap. Like my whole life has been a lie. Have there been any movies that you know of where they changed it like that?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of one now.
Oh my gosh.
I'll have to get back to you on that because I'm sure
Please God,
there's
not
some
Willy
good
Wonka.
ones.
I wanted Charlie to win that chocolate factory so bad.
I don't think that was on the list. I'll try to find a list and
You sure?
I'm sure it's interesting.
That's wild, right? Like you put one out there and people are like, no, that's terrible. It's a terrible ending. I think you just change it. Oh, okay. They hated it. Imagine that. Like
I
you
can't
wrote the
imagine being
thing
in
or-
that room. It'd be rough to have to break the news to the writer or the director.
Yeah. This tested at a 0.0%. We got to fix this thing right now. Man, crazy. Well, I have a bit of a hypothetical question for you. Speaking of craziness, see, I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire. So, doing an event, let's say you do an event in Boston, come on up, come visit. We get some lobster, some beer, and we use the time machine. It's in the backyard. It's covered in a tarp. And so it's a particular kind of time machine, though. And you get to go visit yourself, right? He goes back in time. You get to visit yourself, and you're like hanging out a couple days after that digital enterprise degree, right? You just got that BA, and you're like, hey, you get to go visit that Tara, and you can chat with yourself. It's totally cool. You won't mess up the space-time continuum. Maybe you will, but either way, it's all good. So what kind of advice would you give yourself?
I feel like this is a typical problem that marketers have. But I think early on, I didn't see any value in my own, it sounds cheesy, but my own personal brand or trying to figure out, like, should I be posting on LinkedIn? I mean, I had a Twitter account early on, but I don't know if that's even a thing really. But I think I was always an early adopter to all of these channels. So I would go claim my username right away and just kind of sit on it and not post too much. I think mostly because I just didn't think I had much to say or thought that people wouldn't really care what I said. I wasn't an expert in anything. But one thing I've learned, especially working at a few different startups, is just getting things out there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just kind of learning and iterating as you go. And so I wish I had started posting on like LinkedIn earlier, made more connections early on. I've only really started focusing on that in the last year-ish or so.
Yeah.
And I think if I had started that 10, 12 years ago, I would be in a much better spot.
Oh, I love that. So good. Do you think young Tara would listen to you if you swooped in and gave her that advice?
I mean, probably not, honestly. I think I thought LinkedIn was really cringe. It still can be. But I think I probably wouldn't listen if I could move back.
You'd be like, no, we're still on MySpace. I'm not going to go
Yeah.
to LinkedIn. What's that about?
Still on my Facebook albums. And yeah.
You know, it's amazing. I don't know if you bumped into like recent grads, how many recent grads like haven't done exactly what you're talking about. Maybe, you know, the fortunate ones heard about it in a class, but a lot of them not. And they're not connected to anyone. They don't have they're like an egg photo. They don't have anything built out. And it's just, so important these days.
Yeah. And some of the newer SDRs that we work with at Chili Paper are next level on LinkedIn. They have more connections than I do, and they just started a year ago. So I think if the earlier you start, the easier it is. And you don't have that fear of hitting publish. That I don't know if that comes from the marketing mindset of things have to be polished and perfect, but I find a lot of, especially on the sales side, reps are much quicker to just, let's just try it, see what happens. And they often see a lot of success with that.
Yeah. Sometimes sales goes a little bit too far in that direction, I might say. But yeah, marketing can go too far in the other direction.
We can learn from them. Yeah.
Perfect. And now the evergreen content's no longer green, right? To your
exactly
original point. Yeah. Sick. Well, I heard a rumor that you acquired a pizza oven. Is this accurate?
Yes, that was a COVID purchase. That was a hobby during COVID.
Is it like a little one or is it like a gigantor?
Oh no, it's little. We have a pretty small backyard, so it's a Uni is the brand, but it's like a tabletop, like the size of my computer, basically.
So like, are we talking like a personal pizza, or is it enough for like a couple?
No, you could do like a real.
Okay.
I think 12, 13-inch pizza. Yeah, like
right,
a nice thin crust.
Oh yeah.
So that was my project.
What's your recipe? Like what's your favorite? If you're crafting on that thing, what are you making?
We made one once with leftover pulled pork and pineapple. That was really good. I'm a pineapple on pizza person. I know it's controversial. But that one was delicious. That was really great.
Wow. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we had a lot of time during COVID. We got into smoking meats too, so we had a lot of leftovers.
Do you have an egg for that?
No, we have it's called a Traeger. It's like a big stand-up.
Oh, a Traeger. Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
That's like a serious.
It's serious. Yeah.
You're not messing around.
No, my partner got really into it.
Let's make some jerky. No, you're smoking things for sure. That's awesome. Man, you know, nothing like doing a podcast right before lunch and talking about pizza and
Caesar salad
and all these things. So Tara, where can people go to learn more about Chili Piper, you, recipes? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm trying to be more active on LinkedIn. So you could give me a follow there. Encourage me to post more. And for Chili Piper, we're also very active on LinkedIn. We're really close to cracking 65,000 followers. So super excited to grow that. And yeah, we're always trying to post content for B2B marketers and sellers to help them get better at their jobs. So give us a follow there.
So good. And they're not going to harass you with nurture emails.
No.
So awesome. You can go sign up and it's safe. You won't be inundated like some of the other places. Oh man. Tara, thank you so much for coming on here. This was like legit fun brainstorm. Like my brain is full. My tummy's not. I might go solve that after this pod. But like, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thanks so much for having me. This was super fun.
Super fun. Those listening, hey y'all, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone. One person, 9 people, 5,000 people, whatever the case may be. Throw it out there on LinkedIn, but put your take. What was your takeaway? Was it around LinkedIn? Was it around movie trailers, the thought leader ads? I'm probably going to check that out. Or just not going crazy on the nurturing and thinking about your buyers. Man, there's so much good stuff here. Put what you learn out there. Tag me, tag Tara. We're going to have a blast. We'll blow it up on LinkedIn. With that, thank you so much for coming on here. This is so cool. So fun.
Thanks a lot. Enjoy your lunch.
All right, everyone. Yeah. This has been a crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show We will catch you all next time.